Chapter 47. The light began to gradually increase, but the boy still felt nothing but the cold and emptiness around. He couldn't even think of anything anymore, but he thought it was over until a mysterious white light appeared to his eyes in the distance. He did not know if it would be right to go in this direction, especially since the light in the tunnel did not associate him with something good, but after a while his body began to fly ahead, and the boy fell into a shining glow. The whiteness around him began to fade, and David suddenly found himself in his bed, in his house. Through the open balcony there was a strange glow of the rising sun. No, this cannot be the end, the boy disbelieved, jumping to the floor, but, when he did it, he suddenly fell over in impression, seeing outside his window something more than the usual glare of the sun. For a moment he thought that what he was seeing was an illusion, or he simply died, but after a while he knocked these thoughts out of his head. Behind his balcony was a golden throne on some huge mountain, and it was so great that he could see it clearly as if it were standing nearby. Not only that, when he went outside and looked down, he realized that the whole earth was covered in pink and white clouds, like snow. I guess I am really in heaven, the boy thought, but suddenly he heard a voice behind him in response. Not David, you haven't died yet, you are just in another reality, you are in one of the three worlds that is beyond all human mind and body. Surprised, David looked at the starry man and then asked, how then, am I not dead when I am outside my body? Your soul, that is life, has not been taken from you, thanks to it you can be here, replied the man, but Mirentican wanted to take it away from me, he wanted me to return to my world. Evil has no power to take away your life or mind, I am with you. The Lord of Darkness is all about deceiving you and taking back what you have in your heart so that you can die forever and never wake up. But he has no power over death and life, so he can only wait for the right moment to take away your salvation. Hearing this, the boy began to seem to disbelieve in everything that was around. Okay, you can only tell me before we get to the point, who are you anyway, and you also just a part of mine, imagination? You know exactly who I am, you just never thought I could really exist, the man replied with a smile. On the boy's face there was still an expression, expressing literally no feelings. He only stared in amazement at his face. You look just like a human, he mumbled after a while. And who do you think I am? Laughed the man. I don't know. I mean, you should also take a different form. You know, I've never been interested in Jesus and all the rest of this whole trinity, but now, seeing you, you still remind me of someone. The boy suddenly broke off in half a sentence. Not great? Asked the bearded man with a smile. No. No, not at all. I didn't mean that, denied embarrassed David. You don't have to lie now, I know you meant it, but you decided to be silent. The other one smiled again. And you angry? The young man was surprised. Of course not. I like to show myself to people as one of them. Besides, if you saw what I actually looked like, you would die of impression. David was surprised again. You don't look to me like the old, stern god that people teach about today, he said. Didn't you think I was such an old guy? Santa Claus doesn't have much in common with me. Old age is not a good thing, replied the curly-haired man. Well, yes, actually, but I still don't know what to think about all this. You know, I could ask you so many things. What did you create us for? What do you exist for? Why did you create yourself and you know? The boy fell silent again, a little embarrassed, and then looked out behind the balcony again. The creator who heard this smiled again. I created you humans because I wanted to be loved. Love is your true purpose, and the world is a reflection of my love for you. So you still love us? I thought if you existed, I mean, you exist, then you should have destroyed the world a long time ago, David said. I've already done it once, and soon I will do it again, but not yet. How's that? That means that. No, David, then there will be a time of peace. I will create a new home for you. The boy froze in silence. Only after a dozen or so seconds, the silence was broken by his shaky voice. That doesn't fit in my head. Is this really happening? Do you really exist and no one knows you? Everyone knows me. Unfortunately, however, not everyone knows the truth. Truth about what? The boy asked. About the truth, the man replied. I think I know that. Are you saying that people only believe what they want to believe? The boy rather stated, then asked. Exactly. I am not angry with those who do not believe in me, because they have not heard about me, but there are also those who, although they hear about me, do not know me at all. Even those who believe in me want it to be different. Well, but even I still have some doubts. I mean, I still can't believe you're here and that I'm here. I still want to believe it's just a dream, and I don't know why," said the young man. "It's because you didn't want to know me all your life, being convinced I didn't love you. Many people attribute their sufferings to me, believing that it is I who chastise them with illness and death. But why?" David was saddened. "Because the Lord of Darkness keeps them in the belief that I am responsible for everything. Not all people accuse me of their suffering because they hate me, but most people think that everything depends on me." "And this is not the case?" David was surprised. "If that were the case, you wouldn't be free, and free will wouldn't matter. Man has given up his power over the world of darkness, and if he does not turn away from it, he will continue to live in the belief that he is worthless. The truth is, however, that evil is afraid of human and wants to destroy him for this reason, because he knows that the world belongs to you, and you still have the power to call me." "But for what? After all, you are all-powerful. You could show yourself to the people and destroy Mirentigan and his lord. After all, you have the power to kill all this damned scrap." The boy burst out screaming, quickly clogging his mouth. After saying the last sentence, however, the man did not pay attention to it, after which he replied with tears in his eyes, "David, know that everything I do, or don't do, is for your good. People must sincerely believe in me, because if I had just shown myself to them, they would have followed me right away. Well, what's wrong with that? The point is that I want to be loved no matter what. People are supposed to believe in my strength, not trust what they see. As for evil, you must fight it yourselves, with my help. It is man who has brought a lie into this world, and only he has the power to stop it, but to do so, the truth that I give is needed. I am who I am the way, the truth and the life. All you have to do is turn back from the way of this world to get to know me, but people today are too busy to do that. Work, entertainment and rest, but not a minute of time spent looking at the stars one night, listening to the sound of leaves and the sound of the wind. Everything I have created is forgotten while keeping you away from me. People have trusted the darkness because they can rest in it and not worry about anything, but the dazzling light begins to feed them. They see in it the obstacles they have to face. My path is narrow, winding and difficult. For this it is easier for people to fall into sin, and instead of going towards a better future, they prefer to entertain themselves forever and die. People trust the media, the magazines, other people because they can say whatever they like, and the dazzling truth, full of adversity, is rejected, for it is easier to sin than to follow sacrifice. They do not notice, however, that then they become slaves to their sin, which in turn leads to the fall. They have eyes but they can't see, they have ears but they can't hear. But why can't you at least tell people all the things you tell me? Then they could finally change, said the boy. I talk to them all the time. Unfortunately, not everyone wants to listen to me, or there are also those who cannot listen to me. Everything you see here, as you probably know, is not real. I have brought you here so that I can tell you more about myself. Unfortunately, I can't answer every question because you have to find the answer to it yourself. But I can tell you a story so that you know the truth about your ancestors and the ruler of darkness who has wanted to get rid of people for thousands of years. So I'll find out why he wants to do it, and who he is really, David asked. You know exactly who he is, but like me, you have never seen him. However, he does not care about revealing himself to people, but about hiding from them, impersonating various terrible deities. The deceiver from the very beginning wanted to be equal with me and be like God. And that is precisely for this reason that he wants people to worship him. When the Creator said this, he stepped back onto the large balcony, pointing the golden throne to the boy standing in the distance. The deceiver has always wanted that. He began. He knew he couldn't beat me, but he wanted to climb the mountain and sit on the throne to show me his greatness. He finished. He became proud and jealous, even though I made him the most beautiful of all my servants. He was a seraphim, a reflection of beauty, a guardian of the stars and a son of light. He had everything he wanted, and he was one of the 3, now 7, who stand next to my throne. Gabriel is to this day my messenger and herald of life and death. Michael is the greatest of the cherubims, my warriors, and the guardian of the gates of heaven and earth. Raphael is the healer of human sorrows and emotions. Uriel is the messenger of peace and war. Zadkiel is the seeker and protector of the righteous people. Jophiel is an art and music lover, and Chamul is a pilgrim, observer and my humble servant. but the greatest has always been Lucifer, as you now call him. But when I created you humans, jealousy appeared in his heart, for he knew that I had also given you freedom and love, nor was the light he had within him enough, for he saw that you, the people, had something much more, that you have me in your hearts. So, he decided to destroy you and become God for you. After he had learned that I could not be defeated, I threw him to the earth with all the rest of his subordinate seraphims, taking away his light and glory. This, however, did not stop him, and he deceived man into also taking away the same gift from him. For disobedience, I had to punish man and banish him from paradise of Garden Eden so that he would no longer have access to the tree of life. That's why, couldn't people really get a second chance? David asked. Yes, they could, but the tree of life stood in paradise to give life, and yet people chose another fruit, the fruit of knowledge. By this man awakened death to life, and he did so of his own free will. I had warned them before, but I didn't want to force them to obey when they were free. The deceiver, however, took a different direction, deciding to turn away from my principles and began to act unfairly to deceive man even more. He lied to them, so that he deceived them as well as his subjects, and the people gave him power. Since then, he has been the Lord of your world and has power over the human mind. How's that? So that means you've left us? I don't get it. The boy burst out screaming. I have never left you. I have only given you the whole world under dominion, and the people have chosen for themselves who they want to serve, whether to remain free in the world or enslaved. But I didn't agree to that. I never wanted to follow evil and suffer just because some first man Adamski had sinned. The young man was outraged. That's not what David is all about. Each of you has been given one more chance and has the power to turn your back on the kingdom of this world, replied the Creator. But how? Asked the broken boy. Fighting the forces of darkness, fighting for the remnants of creation, and freeing the slaves of sin from their ruler, the man replied with a smile. All you have to do is believe in yourself and my strength, and nothing will stop you. He finished. Even Anthonian himself sinned, but he decided to change it and he repented of his guilt, after I forgave him, and I allowed him to help people, but in a different way, on my terms, said the starry man. What way? Hearing this, the Creator smiled again, and then he began to tell the story again. Melchizedek, I mean the Anthonian you met in an unknown world, once served as one of the angels in the ranks of the Archangel Gabriel. He saw your whole world from above, and he didn't like how people were beginning to fall into more and more sin. So, he decided, in despite of my forbid, to descend to the earth from the tree of life, along with many other angels, but when they did it, as a punishment I took away their divine light, and they became like men. The world was already so corrupt that their bodies and minds could not even endure it all. Hunger and disease began to haunt even themselves, but their strength and knowledge allowed them to create a powerful civilization on Earth, which in turn would allow them to survive. One day, however, a fugitive, Cain, the first murderer, the killer of his brother Abel, took refuge with them. Seeing the mark I had given him, the fallen angels gave him shelter and shared their powerful knowledge with him. Soon a mighty kingdom was established, and cities full of debauchery and wickedness began to grow all over the world. Angels began to take women as wives, and all other creatures began to die out because of the Nephilims whom they begat. The earth turned into a swamp and dust. The blood of innocents who wanted to live far from the cities stained water and soil, and piles of their bodies covered the valleys. There were such terrible things going on there that I don't even want to tell you or show you this destruction. David, the deceiver, even managed to convert many of these angels to his side, as well as people. But your friend did not let himself be deceived and understood that he had to save creation. So he fled with a trickle of his companions to the descendants of Seth, who fought for what was good, and they decided to protect them from the kingdom of darkness. Lamech, the son of Methuselah, was your former ancestor who was the first to meet them. However, it was not safe. The man interrupted his speech by looking the boy in the face. Why? Finally asked the interested and at the same time numb David. I cannot tell you everything, for you would then have too much knowledge to use the forces of darkness, but since your mission is to save this world, I will tell you one thing. David was transformed into hearing. The world of imagination you have come to know was created by me. It was supposed to be a place where man could become strong, but Metatron does not know what it takes to destroy it. Who is Metatron? David interrupted suddenly. Metatron is Lucifer, David. He has many names, as me, but none of them are true anymore. He wants to establish his new laws in the world of yours so that people become subordinate to him. You must stop the darkness that wants to destroy you. Don't try me. Why do you choose me? I don't understand. What do you see in me so good? David replied. I see something good in every human being, David, but I have chosen you for the fact that evil wants to destroy you, for he knows that the blood of the warriors who fought with the Lord of Darkness flows in your veins. For this reason, evil wants to destroy you and keep you still convinced that you are a nobody. When the Creator said this, he pointed out to the view rolling out in front of them. Suddenly, the whole landscape in front of them turned into a colorful forest, and the ground was covered with lush grass. Your world, even though it is no longer as beautiful as it used to be and it must be over, is still my creation, and you are its owner, as well as every human. For this reason you must protect it. So did evil really want to kill my whole family forever? The boy asked. Evil wants to destroy every human being, but those who are the last to stay with me are the most persecuted of all. The more a man loves, the more evil hates him, replied the star-eyed man. Does that mean that my ancestors really fought the ruler of darkness? Who were they and who am I that you chose me? David asked again. I chose you because your ancestors and you, David, wanted it. By asking me for help, you have shown that you still believe in love. Then what do you want from me? What should I do to stop Mirentagon? You have to believe. To believe in yourself and my strength as much as your ancestors. They all laid down their lives in the name of freedom and truth. Until your time will not come, I will not let you die. You must live and defeat your demons. Only here nothing threatens you. It's all defeat me. Who am I to fight this evil? The sobbing boy broke down. You are someone greater than you think, David. You are a human, a warrior. The man replied, picking up the trembling boy from the ground. The young man immediately calmed down, feeling his hand on his shoulder. After a while, he wiped away his tears, because suddenly some picture appeared to his eyes again. He saw his mother again, who was pregnant and was lying on a hospital bed. Next to her was a doctor who showed her the scanning just displayed on the monitor. The boy looked at it and immediately realized that he saw himself on the screen. You will give birth to a beautiful, healthy child, said the doctor with a smile. Have you already wondered about the name? He added cheerfully after a while. Hearing this, the woman burst into unexpected tears, and then replied in a shaky voice. Thank you. His name will be David. Thank you so much for being able to show him to me. Maybe he will be a better man than me in the future. When the woman said this, David, who saw it, also shed tears. Now you see, David, the man began to say, you are a miracle, a gift from heaven. As soon as your mother saw you, she understood that she could not have an abortion. She realized that you could become a better person and change this world for the better, and even though she couldn't handle her addictions, she loved you sincerely. Never again believe that no one loved you. Love is not a weakness, but once evil has destroyed it, darkness wants to keep man convinced that it is better to hate. Never listen to these words. You were born to save the world and convert the suffering people. You are a warrior, a descendant of Japheth and his entire lineage, who had the task of guarding what was good, like all the people, with all nationalities, with all skin color. That is why his nations, like all others, want to destroy the ruler of darkness. It was people who divided into races and better or worse people. So, stand up before your adversity. It doesn't matter that all your ancestors are no longer alive and you can't resurrect them. All you have to do is have them in you. You have each of them in your blood, and each of them, small or great, rich or poor, warrior or not, Christian or not, each of them, falling and sinning, still had hope. So do not allow yourself to give in to evil and show your demons that you are with me, that I am in you, because I am your creator, your father. The whole pedigree begins with me. Everyone who loves me belongs to my family, because I created you in my own image. Hearing this, David closed his eyes, taking fresh air into his lungs. Suddenly, some figures appeared in his mind. Ancient warriors, brave knights, uniformed soldiers, all the great or smaller, dignified or not, kings and the poor, pagans and prophets, fishermen or shepherds, but each of them fought with his sword or his word and sacrifice. It doesn't matter if you have any weaknesses, David. No one is perfect, and no matter who you are, every man has the power to fight evil. But in this fight you must use the blade that is in your spirit, for we are not fighting against blood and flesh, but against principalities, against authorities, against the rulers of the world of darkness, against the spirits subject to this darkness. You were created to love, and all that needs to be destroyed is destruction. Kill death with life. When the Creator said this, he looked at the boy with a smile and tears in his eyes. David also wept. He threw his hands around the short man's neck as if he were his old friend. "I love you, my son," whispered the star-eyed man. "I still don't know what to do. Even Mirentagon himself said that I was not an ordinary person. Is it true that one of my ancestors rebelled against you?" the boy asked suddenly. The lion-mane man came out of his embrace, then rested his hands on his shoulders. "Yes, David. And who was he?" "Why, this one," the boy asked. "It doesn't matter, David. His heart desired only power and divinity," the man replied. "Please. I want to know. He said that there was no ordinary blood flowing in me. I don't get it." "David, you are human. No amount of blood will change that. If you really want to know, that rebel was Magog, the eldest son of Japheth, a man who managed to acquire knowledge from another world again and wanted to become a powerer." "And who are they, these powerers?" "I don't understand anything," said the boy. "They are people, well known as giants, who want to equate themselves with me. They think that by depriving themselves of their humanity and accessing themselves to the forces of darkness, they will be able to do so, just as fallen angels once united with sinners. Now people want their ally to be the deceiver." To this day, however, there are also two other factions that the powers have created. These powerful rulers of your world want to gain more knowledge that will allow them to recreate great mighty ones like the Nephilims. They want to defile the human race again. The man satisfied the boy's curiosity. "But you are human. You are my child and I dwell in your heart. The property they carry is nothing. Their strength and knowledge that allow them to rule over your world is great, but they will soon find out that the weak and humiliated ones, they will have a faith that they cannot face up to. All who shed their tears will be uplifted, because the end of the rulers of this world is near. A new kingdom will come, to which I will invite everyone, who, despite his sins, has repented of his deeds. Eternal life will be given to all who have not renounced humanity and to me. All those who cry out to heaven in the depths of their souls, shed tears of hope and believe in love and love their persecutors will face the sons of darkness." Hearing this, David smiled, and then repeated his earlier words. "For we are not fighting against blood and flesh, but against principalities, against authorities, against the rulers of the world of darkness, against the spirits subject to darkness." The Creator nodded affirmatively. He knew that the young man already knew what kingdom he belonged to, so now, "Answer me, who are you?" he asked. "I am human." "A warrior," David cried out in response, and then he opened his hopeful eyes. Suddenly, he felt that his mind was filled with peace, and that he was returning back to his body. His heart was covered with warmth, and his eyes again saw their tormentor in front of them. Mirentagon watched in horror as the boy came back to his mind and his eyes took on color again. Chapter 48. From the great throat of the demon suddenly came out a terrifying, furious yelp. "How is this possible?" an unbelieving beast screamed. The boy did not answer anything. He knew now clearly that the monster no longer has access to him, so he began to move closer and closer towards Mirentagon, and the other one began to retreat in fear. "You have always wanted to destroy me because you are afraid of me, demon. Everything you've told me so far doesn't matter to me anymore. People are what they are, but they are only weak if they believe it. But I believe in truth and love," the boy finally said, getting closer and closer to his eternal tormentor. "And this world is not an ordinary theater. It's all more real than I thought. It's high time to destroy you, because I know that he is with me. I came here only to know myself and destroy you," added the boy a moment later, looking at evil straight in the face. "Ah yes, so you still think I can be stopped?" The beast laughed, but in his voice the youngster could immediately hear fear, which made the boy realize how weak his opponent really is. "Yes, I believe that I must stop you," David finally replied. Hearing this, Mirentagon went berserk and pulled out his great claws ahead. After a while, a black glow began to approach the boy, but he, still moving forward, stretched out his hand in front of him, and the darkness turned into light. So the boy released it from his hands, and a shining wave hit the opponent, penetrating into his disgusting body. "You and your lord have always been weak. It is for this reason that you are acting unfairly and you want people to fall with you. Even darkness you did not create and you lost a long time ago," David said. "Oh really? So show me what you can do, puppy," snorted the creature, after which he used all his power to kill his opponent. As he raised his hands upwards, the whole sky was covered with black clouds, and darkness enfolded everything around. Suddenly, mysterious, dark pillars appeared in the monster's hands, resembling swirling lightning bolts. Mirantican pointed his clawed hands at the boy and released his dark bullets at him. The boy, however, does not budge. Some invisible force saved the boy from death. "Do you think that with the blood of a power in you, you have the power to stop me?" the beast howled. "I am human. You are just a monster." Finally, David moved and again turned the enemy's bullets into light. In the demon's black eyes, an expression of horror appeared when the boy pointed his new weapon at him. "It's your end, my new beginning," the boy said, and then threw 2 pillars of fire in front of him. Mirantican began to scream at the sight. Knowing that David had turned his own power against him, he still wanted to stop this power, but he was unable to overcome the light penetrating it. After a while, huge pillars of fire hit the monster straight in the chest. A demonic scream came out of Mirantican's smelly throat, until suddenly his whole body exploded, spilling into small pieces. There was absolutely nothing left of the monster, but a powerful wave also struck David, knocking him off his feet. Suddenly, the boy hit his head against the wall in the back, showered with dozens of bricks and stones, and then he fell limply on a pile of rubble. Everything around him darkened and blurred before his eyes, but before the boy closed his eyes, he saw that the black clouds above were blown away by the wind, revealing back the blue of the bright sky. All the clouds blurred without a trace, until suddenly, out of nowhere, 3 mysterious, winged figures appeared, which landed on the ground, picking up the wounded young man from the ground. All 3 beings surrounded by light soared back into the sky, taking him with them. In the end, David was completely exhausted, and the last thing he heard was the flutter of their wings and the soothing whistling of the wind. Suddenly, all the noises died down. Nothing could be heard but only silence, which was unexpectedly broken by a monstrous bang and a familiar scream. "Wake up, David. Stand up." Jalafessa slapped the boy lightly in the face. The blow worked, but David was still like a half alive. "Wake up now, open your eyes," she cried. The young man listened to her request, but after a few seconds, he squinted his eyelids again. The princess, seeing that she would not do anything with him, turned to the others. "We put off the shore. We need to get out of here as soon as possible." When the team grabbed the oars and turned the boat towards the gate, David had already weakened completely. Nanthornin, who had just finished pulling down the burnt sail, he looked back. Suddenly, Paguirian soldiers emerged from the darkness in the port, who saw a boat leaving. One of the wounded goblins, lying just under the feet of one of the Black Knights, said, "Our lord has not yet returned." All human maggots managed to escape. One of the soldiers looked under his feet, looking into the grey face of the monster. "No one has escaped, you stupid scum, yet. I have no intention of leaving them alive," replied the golden-haired Paguirian with 2 scars under his right eye. When he had said this, he drove the tip of his axe into the head of the creature and wiped his pale forehead of blood. The man's face looked like a true picture of misery and despair, and even more, reddened eyes and pale skin looked just terrible. "We will kill them all by the river and hang their bodies on the walls so that the birds can be satiating with their bodies," he added after a while, addressing his people. "And where is our lord?" "We have to wait for his order," replied one of the soldiers. "Our ruler will not return. One of the chosen ones managed to kill him," said the golden-haired man, picking up Mirantican's purple robes from the ground. "All we have left is to kill these people and restore peace to our lord." When he said that, he put on a beautiful dressing. His people, who saw this, froze in silence, lowering their eyes. "I will revenge Caliphate and restore your life, my lord. I will illuminate your paths and complete all your works so that our light may revive this world." He fell silent for a moment, looking around at his people. "From now on I will guide you. I, a descendant of Kaleen, the son of Kalhandi, will lead all nations towards a new, bright future and gain power over the people of Ethnestia to take their place on the throne of the ancestors." All Paguirians, hearing his words, looked at each other. "But Commander, where is our lord now? Why do you say he's dead?" one of them finally asked. The Paguirian looked at him with his reddened eyes. "I didn't mean anything like that. Do you doubt the power of our lord? His body is gone, but his spirit will remain in all of us forever." When the Goldilocks man said so, he unexpectedly stabbed the Black Knight in the chest. The dagger was deep into the heart of the man, but the other one not died surprisingly. Suddenly, the Goldilocks man began to utter a spell, Amharad and Ardamir. When the blade came out of the soldier's chest, his whole body began to fall to pieces, and the Pagurian commander, with some mysterious power, turned it into dust. The pile of ashes dissolved after a while in all directions, leaving no trace of the black soldier. The Goldilocks man let the floating dust into his nostrils and he smiled. "I promise you to capture the boy and send him back to your kingdom, my lord." The Pagurian spoke again towards the sky, at the same time putting the helmet on his head. However, he decided that he should soon change his image completely and become someone completely new. He was no longer the same person, but a new leader who was entrusted with a new task. In the depths of his heart, he felt that Mirendagon's spirit was still alive and engulfing his mind. "Send a raven after them. He will follow them to the river itself and will lead us to our destination. When they will be at the gate, we will attack," he said. One of the armed men obediently released the black bird from his hand and ordered him to follow the boat of 14 escapees. The great raven soared towards the starry sky, then began to glide unnoticed, towards his target, just above the heads of the team. "The gate is in front of us, we have to be careful," the princess informed, being the first to notice a large object emerging from the dense fog. When they approached and saw that the bars were open, however, they were worried. "They didn't close the gates. Maybe they forgot to do it, but I think they want to lure us somewhere," said his harem. "I think so too. The gate leading to the river is probably closed and there they can get us," said the girl. "We have to hurry." "All the more so because David is not feeling well," Nanthornin said. "You don't look any better. How come you are still standing on your feet?" the princess asked him, but she did not hear an answer. "We have a small hole on the right side. We need to patch it up," said Popin. Bago immediately set to work and plugged the hole in the side with various rags. Gordrin looked at the makeshift mudman work surprised, but after a while he realized that Bago knew everything best. The skinny man tied up his clothes, then started rowing again. The boat finally reached the gate, and just as they were about to sail into the great reservoir of water, something emerged from the darkness. The team did not even have time to turn the boat and hit an object protruding from the water. "What is it?" Jelif was scared. "A sunken boat. It looks very old, but it certainly couldn't have been here before the city was conquered. It's weird," Nethin said. "We have to keep going." "Fortunately, we sailed slowly and nothing bad happened," said Nanthornin, grabbing back the steering paddle. As he did so, his companion suddenly saw a strange expression on his face. "Something wrong?" Terhin asked. "Do you feel good?" the princess asked. "A shadow." The warrior replied quietly after a long while. What shadow?" The girl was worried. The giant looked up. The others did the same, and to their amazement they saw that the most unusual raven was sitting on the mast. The bird looked at them all and turned his attention to David lying down. It flew down to him and started croaking. "Shoo, get out of here you little." Jalifessa got upset and, not wanting to waste precious time, slightly poked it with the tip of her shoe. The bird, however, did not twitch and began to croak again, as if wanting to tell them something. The girl finally decided that something had to be on point. "Nanthornin, do you see that?" she asked. "Of course, I can see, and that's not a good sign," the giant replied. "Why?" The archer was surprised. "Enough is enough. David looks like he's about to die, and right behind us we still have a city full of enemy. Leave this stupid bird alone and let's keep going." Nethin got upset. As soon as he said this, Jalifessa suddenly twitched, seeing his wrist. "What happened to your hand?" she asked shocked, looking at this unpleasant sight. "It's nothing," the young man replied, but after a while he changed his mind, seeing the expression on her face. "Okay, I'm afraid it's something serious, Nanthornin. We need to get to the river as soon as possible. I think we're still not safe here." The girl again did not hear the answer. "Nanthornin." She turned back and she stiffened also with Nethin at the sight of David standing in front of them. Bago, who had just finished removing the boards wedging them so they could swim again, also looked at the boy. "Are you already feeling good?" Jelif asked happily, but also shocked. The boy stood still in silence. The team seeing this began to be afraid of it. Suddenly, to everyone's surprise, Nanthornin jerked David violently and he threw him across the deck boards. "What the hell is going on here?" Tirefadin shouted, surprised, but his screaming was nothing compared to the shock that followed a moment later, for on the deck now lay two Davids, or rather one real one. "What is it? Kill it!" screamed Beauty-Haired to the warrior, not knowing what to think about it. A raven standing next to him jumped on the body of one of the lying boys, as if to show them who the untrue one was. David finally opened his eyes and saw that there was a large bird sitting on his chest. "What is it?" he asked, but to his own amazement, he did not open his mouth. Instead, he heard his own words coming right next to him, so he turned his head to the right and saw something unbelievable. At first he thought that there was a mirror in front of him and he saw only his reflection in it, but soon after, he realized that this was not the case. "Nanthonin, why is the other me lying next to me? Is this some kind of joke? What kind of doppelganger is this?" He began to scream, but to his horror, he realized again that this something next to him pronounced it instead of him. "Calm down, David, we're about to do something about it. Please calm down," Tirefadin replied in a stifled voice, approaching the other David. No, I am the real one. Can you hear me? What's going on here? What is this? Please wake me up." The real boy cried out to his companions, but his words still went to the mouth of the cloned figure. "Please, calm down, David. Nanthonin is about to take care of everything. Again, these are probably some magic tricks. Everything will be over soon. We will sail away from this cursed place and it will be over. It will be over." The green-eyed calmed the other boy, but his voice sounded equally frightened. No, I and only I am David. Don't listen to this thing." David was still screaming, but this time his voice did not come out of his mouth, as well as his double. His scream was simply blurred in the air and no one heard it. Meanwhile, his reflection looked straight into his eyes, smiling unpleasantly. David stiffened with fear, hearing the other person speak to him in a familiar voice. "I will always be with you, David. I will always remain in your heart, even when I am no longer here. I promise you this, my friend. I will always be with you, always." The apparition grabbed his hand and then looked up, smiling at Nanthonin this time. David, who saw this, also did the same to see the warrior's face, but it was too late. The last thing he saw in this terrible nightmare was his huge sword, which stuck straight into his face, and then flooded from his own vomit. David woke up. Turhin rejoiced, but as soon as he saw his friend's condition, the smile on his face disappeared without a trace. "Fortunately, at least, you are already fine," said the princess. "Nathan has just lost consciousness and we don't know what's wrong with him," she added after a while. "He was bitten," David mumbled weakly. "What? Bitten? By a monster?" the girl asked to make sure. "Yes. By one of those dung creatures, on the wrist," the boy replied, and then began to vomit again. "Turhin, check out David and I'll take care of Nathan. Maybe something can be done before we reach the river," said the princess. "With regard to the river, it's not far away. We need to prepare before we will reach it," Nanthonin said. "Your Majesty, do you know then where it would be safest to stop before we will reach the waterfall?" Papin asked the princess. "What waterfall?" Celian was terrified. "Don't you know there's a waterfall in the middle of the Indurdor River?" Turhin was surprised. "Well, no, I'm not from the local sites," replied the scout. "It doesn't matter. You can see it on the maps. If you want to survive, you'd better hold on tight," said the boy. Celian looked at him doubtfully, thinking that the 10-year-old boy was just joking, but he also doubted that such a boy would now be jocular. "Yes, Celian, Turhin is telling the truth. We all have to be careful. The river is turbulent rushing and there are many watermills on the way. If we do not stop at the last one, it will be over with us," said the princess. "Well, that's great," David mumbled. "All the more so because we are still being chased by these fanatics," he added. "Possibly, but maybe they think we're dead," Turhin said. "No. They are here. They are watching us and want to attack us at the outflow into the river," David replied. "How do you know that?" Tirefadin asked. "I just know." "Trust me, David is probably right. We better listen to him. I don't know about you, but I think he has something in him that they want to get. After all, we saw Mirentigan wanting to take him with me and Nanthonin. He must mean something to him," Tirefadin said. "You should probably know that David is not of this world. He has some power that they want to acquire." "You have heard Mirentigan's words," added his opinion Popin. "What are you talking about again? There is no other world. I don't think you want to tell me now that this boy came here with you, allied by Mirentican himself. Why do you think again that everything revolves around us here? Who are we? Your mission was to save my father, so, what would they want from David? The princess didn't understand. Hush your mouth, screamed suddenly upset boy. Jalafessa was not too offended by these inappropriate words addressed to her, but she did not intend to remain silent. She thought that maybe the boy himself would have something interesting to say to her. Is it true that you are not from here? She asked. Seeing that the boy did not answer anything, she decided to change the question a little. Okay, let's assume that you are really from another world. So, will you tell me if everything that's going on here has anything to do with you? David was still silent. That's what I thought. The girls nodded. The young man hearing this was still silent, but suddenly something disturbed him. Something inside him told him that something bad could happen right away. Let everyone sit down immediately, he shouted. Everyone except the princess and Nanthornan were already sitting in their seats, but when they heard these words, sounding like an order, they stiffened up in surprise. What are you doing again? Asked him the nervous girl. David looked to the right, into the darkness of the night. The surface of the water began to flicker strangely red. Hide, he screamed in horror, seeing that mysterious lights were also emerging from the fog. After a while, he had no doubt that the light was fire. Jalafessa was still standing, staring at him, but after a while Nanthornan himself ran into her, knocking her down aboard. The fiery arrowheads emerged from the thick fog, and just as it all was about to break into the deck, David stretched out his hands upwards, hoping to be saved. He rose from the seat and began to scream furiously, until suddenly all the arrows fell into small pieces, literally as if it was just burned all together. The charred shatters fell into the water and on board without causing them any harm. Chapter 49. A man in a purple robe and a black helmet watched from a distance, approaching the boat of escapees, a stolen galley, which was about to ram its target. Sir, someone's voice suddenly said. What? Hissed unpleasantly Black Knight. Numerous armies have set up their camp a few miles away. They prepare for the siege and slowly move the encampment here. We have to. The soldier did not finish his report, because suddenly Pagurian's fist hit him right in the face. I know exactly what to do. Send people to the walls, summon these Isletian mercenaries and wipe out all this filth. The new ruler began to yell, but Lord, we need your orders. We must stop them. There are thousands of them, replied the messenger. Then attack the camp before they get here. Until they are not prepared, they are nothing to us, shouted the ruler in a frenzy. Lord, you have to come with us. Hearing this, the golden-haired man went into an even greater frenzy and knocked the soldier over, starting to kick him straight in the face. You're not going to tell me what to do. Why did you have to come here? Why are you telling me this? Why did that day have to come today? After all, this is our city, our wonderful land. Nobody will take it away from us. The ruler began to howl, beating the unfortunate man to unconsciousness. Serenma crouched over a small cliff, watching from above. If in the middle of the numerous fields in the bottom, there is no one hiding uninvited, just behind him, among the trees, was a camp set up by people, in which they had to prepare for the attack. Something disturbing on the horizon, Metkul asked unexpectedly. Serenma gave the blonde man an unpleasant look, but finally replied calmly. I don't see anyone yet, but there must be someone here. Metkul nodded his head, looking ahead, hoping to see the city. And now take a running jump. I need some peace, not that stinking snout over myself. A hooded man growled. Metkul obediently moved away from the busy scout, and then stepped back into Lord's tent, smaller and less impressive, of course, than the one in the Eternal Camp. We can't attack now. The army must rest before it fights. We didn't set up camp to leave it right away, Minthriel was just saying. I'm not saying we have to go right now. I say we have to be there before dawn comes, Hendren replied. When dawn is soon, our soldiers are able to stay without sleep even for a few days, but what will it do when they do not have the strength? We marched all evening and night, without stop for food and water, Minthriel said. Water and a meal they will get soon. The biggest problem that needs to be addressed now is the assembly and transport of siege machines through these overgrown fields, and the transfer of the command base, and unfortunately, it so happens that people are needed for this. There will be no time to rest when we are not sure if the king is alive at all. Hendron said. But if he is still there, don't rush, said his opinion copper-haired man. We must hurry, the enemy surely already knows that we are here, I feel it. These stupid creatures can even go out of town to surprise us, that's why we didn't get close to the walls itself. Mithril finally agreed with him, but after a while he began to refer to another topic, regarding to the city. He began, there is a much larger army there than we thought, all the more so because in some mysterious way, their people multiply rapidly. After all, the capital stands in the middle of the country, and they just come out of nowhere. It is, the man interrupted. It's magic, someone else's voice finished for him. Everyone looked in that direction and was surprised to find out that they saw an old man in front of them who appeared literally out of nowhere. What is it supposed to be? Who are you? Metkel asked. I apologize for this sudden intrusion. I am Valadin, one of the older heroists. A grey-haired warrior introduced himself, dressed in plate, red armor. Even such old people are already employed by these heroes, laughed suddenly one of the soldiers standing next to him. Hendron gave him an unpleasant look, and the man immediately remembered his duties. Valadin, unmoved, calmly explained to all of them. I'm retired, I will not talk about myself anymore, for it so happens that Lord Dobromir has instructed me to summon you quickly to his assembly. His army is waiting for your reports about the city. Hearing this, the lords only then realized that the retired warrior spoke in an Antherian accent. Even the Antherians are leaving their country for this whole brotherhood. Metkel was surprised, but he had nothing else to say when his lord followed the white-haired soldier. After a while, everyone stopped in front of a large red tent, and Valadin went inside first, informing Dobromir of their arrival. I didn't ask for permission. Please let them in right away, said a hard voice from the inside. Hendron and Mithril were frightened when suddenly the curtains moved apart violently, and inside they saw an unusual sight. Of course, they saw Dobromir himself in front of them, but both of them had never seen him before and did not think who he might really be. It's just a fur, Metkel reassured his lord. A moment later, when he realized that they did not see a werewolf in front of them. Yes, it's just a fur, and feathers, admitted the green-iced lord, looking at the room as well as Dobromir's clothing. The man rose his face from the wolf's hood, revealing his cut, short hair, in the color of beautiful, polished, brown wood. In addition, the typical Antherian style of the mustache, with sharp shape, sharpening features of his face, and grey as fog eyes, added an faceless expression for them. I am pleased to meet you at last with my own eyes, Lord Dobromir, Hendron said, bowing to him a little with respect. Who said I am a lord? Asked the other in response. I, UMH, your old messenger, the man mumbled awkwardly. I'm just a king's marshal. The only power I have is over the royal battalion. I have no fiefdom or power over the people, but orders, duties from the king and my country. My mission is to give my homeland carelessness and peace, shedding my blood on sacrifice for it. I am a servant and no one greater, so do not bow down before me, for I am not accustomed to such an honor that someone in my tent should do so. Hearing this, Hendron grimaced. So, I cannot, as I understand it, bow before you in this humble estate of yours, for your funny law, as usual, forbids it. He snorted. Unmoved by this, the marshal replied calmly, at this point, no one but me has to bow down as a sign that I serve my people and you in humility. Metkel, who was still bowing to everyone with another, stiffened suddenly when he heard these words. How kindly it is on your part, a faithful servant of his people. However, I am very tired of this talk, because I heard from Valadin, that apparently you wanted to get information about the city from us. Yes, it is. I need you because you know your city best. Do you have a plan for it? I did after a while. What? Asked the lord awkwardly. Hearing this, Dobromir belched by accident, sipping a fresh beer. Am I really supposed to tell you what I mean? I want to get anything that would allow me to get acquainted with. The marshal did not finish, because suddenly Hendron pulled out from behind his coat, some crumpled thing. Dobromir broke down even more, looking at his zeal for cooperation. T'aso flitni pashlo ethanestions, he mumbled under his breath, watching the lord still sitting at the table. The emerald-eyed man unfolded a ruffled map on the counter, and then asked, can I get a tea with milk, please? Dobromir in an instant decided to forgive himself the performing of a nice host and he growled in response, with his real, unpleasant voice. I've had enough of your stupid jokes. Do you think I came here to play with you? King Sivogmund did not tell me to send half of his guards and my soldiers here to serve the band of tea drinkers. Is it possible to calm down? Valadin asked suddenly. Of course, Valadi, Dobrumi replied, calming his nerves in an instant. Surprised by this sight, Hendron furrowed his eyebrows. That old hermit tells you what to do? He asked. This old man, as you called him, is my counselor and friend, if you must know, and yes, besides, he is not a hermit, because we see ourselves often enough, replied with a stupid smirk Dobrumi. Hendron surreptitiously glanced at the retired heroist, not knowing what to think. Valadin, can you summon your friends here? Together you will certainly help us better than this gentleman, said the grey-eyed man, bursting at the very end with his wild laughter. Hendron, Minthriel, and Metkul himself knew that the Antherians often liked to laugh at their allies, but this was already beyond its limits for them. All three people already knew the true character of the Antherian marshal and they were not going to say a word to him. The tent was completely out of space. People waiting for Dobrumi waited impatiently, crowding inside, unable to stand still. The Antherian guards were the only ones who looked at the gathered people unmoved, standing motionless, like statues. When the man finally looked out from behind the table, people immediately stopped chatting and pushing. Dobrumi involuntarily raised one eyebrow at the sight of the Ethernestians. Impatient tea drinkers, he mumbled a moment later, nervously pulling a pile of scrolls from under his desk. Hendron, who had been given the good example of the Grand Marshal as the noble lord, was now looking at his greedily meat-eating mouth and the wooden pint of beer next to the man's big paw. Dobrumi chewed the hard mutton with his yellow fat teeth, and then, without lifting his head from his plate, he looked around at the gathering. What are these fellows doing here, Lord? I have not invited your service here. Please ask them out and make room for the others, he said. I thought I had the right to take whoever I wanted here. Hendron was outraged. Exactly. Have you forgotten, my friend, who serves his people and allies here in his humility? Some young man laughed suddenly. Hearing this, Dobrumi squinted his eyes unpleasantly. Valadin, please send this rabble away immediately and let your comrades in here, Dobrumi mumbled quietly, but the old man heard the request perfectly anyway, and he clearly indicated to the servants the direction of exit. What are you imagining? Do you think that you can dispose of me from this way? Lord Hendron growled. I'm already tired of your willingness to cooperate. I have the impression that Valadin cares more about regaining the city than you, like the rest of the heroists, he added after a while, seeing how the other one returns with his many brothers. Alcha, Turgeon and Mikhail met each other, taking their place next to the old master, while the others were behind. So you're really fraternizing with these warriors? I understand. I myself sent Nanthorn in on a mission, but this, do you really let them rule you like that? The Lord disbelieved. You'd better pay attention to your words, till I still keep my saber by my side. Don't spoil my mood even more, because I'm tired of your talk. You yourself should know, and even you yourself said, that this brotherhood is not subject to anyone. It does not have to serve me and you in this war, for they have their own land and power. Do not dare to instruct me, you Lord Owski, anymore, because I know perfectly well that it is Nanthorn himself who gave you the idea of organizing a competition in which people were to be appointed who, after winning, will go to the rescue of the king. Turgeon also served you faithfully, but I know that behind your pleasant smile and kindness lies Lord's pride, a pride that prevents you from admitting that you also use their services, because you need them as much as I do. You better pay attention to words. Hendron was outraged.